Are cultural masses really that bad? Pope Francis warns of a schism in the church. And one Hollywood actor is considering becoming a deacon. Can you guess who it is? Well, all that and more on That Black Catholic Chick. Enough, I had an experience with something that's going to be one of the first conversations that we talk about here today. Within my parish, that was a cultural mass, two cultural masses. And I had never experienced them before. And just being able to go through with that was just so edifying for me that it's left me asking a question here about cultural masses. Cultural masses, are they a stain on Catholic liturgy? Or should we appreciate when there is some sense of culture brought into the Mass? Now, what the heck am I talking about? Well, this year we had two cultural Masses that took place during the Christmas season in my parish. And that was, of course, Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? Big feast day for our parish. That is the day in which our parish was consecrated as of this year, 100 years ago, well, 2023, 100 years ago on Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so it was a big thing in our parish. But not only that, we have a huge Mexican community in Los Angeles. And so Our Lady of Guadalupe is a big thing out here. It's huge, right? And then another thing happened actually during Advent, right before the Christmas week. And that was I got to say this right, the Sambang Gabi feast celebration. Okay, let me say it again. That was the Sambang Gabi celebration, which is a 9-day celebration that is done culturally by Filipino people. So this is a huge thing in the Philippines, and we have a huge Filipino community in Los Angeles, and of course in our parish as well. So this is the first time I got a chance to experience the Sambang Gabi. I cannot ever say that, Sambang Gabi, okay? And what that was, again, it's a 9-day celebration where traditionally they would go to Mass for 9 days, and it's like this celebration of lights and like the anticipation of the coming of Christ. And I just thought it was so mind-blowingly beautiful, the Mass that we had. And then the choir was singing in their native language. So it was just amazing to see the reverence and the pride of our Filipino parishioners who were taking part of this. They were so proud of it. And it was so beautiful. It was so reverent and so amazing. And then, of course, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Now, at our parish, we actually have a Mariachi Mass. And so they have all of the sung parts of the Mass are in Spanish, and it's with a mariachi band. And we typically have the Aztec dancers at ours, but this year they got caught up with their schedule and something happened on their way in. So they weren't there this year, whatever. But it was so reverent and beautiful. Our parish was filled with just so many different cultures and faces, and everybody was just so into it. It was just the most beautiful thing. And it made me think for a second about just the cultural aspects of our faith and how at one point I was really biased. And it's strange because I was biased without even realizing that my whole life I have always celebrated cultural aspects of Catholicism brought in by people from different countries, and in more specific terms, Italians and Irish. As someone who grew up in New York City, Italians and Irish are like the biggest group of Catholics in the city, okay, or in the region in the Northeast, right? Because that's where they all immigrated to from their motherlands, and they were all Catholics, right? And so I remember growing up being a part of stuff like the St. Anthony's Festival. St. Anthony's is a huge thing out in New York City. Have a whole festival and San Gennaro Festival and just like all of these Italian celebrations. Listen, no one does Catholic celebrations like the Italians, okay? They are all out, okay? And I remember experiencing all of these things as a youth growing up in New York City. Columbus Day. I didn't just see this as like some celebration that we do that's kind of nationwide. Like that was an Italian celebration, and there was always a mass before it, and there's always a parade. It was a lot of cultural things brought into celebration around faith. Same thing with the Irish. I mean, hello, St. Patrick's Day. Growing up in New York as a Catholic, and I'm not even Irish, I took part in these Irish celebrations that were huge all over New York City. It always started with the Mass and remembering who St. Patrick was and what his importance was to the Irish people and to Catholicism in general, how he drove all of the snakes out of Ireland, how he really established the Catholic Church in Ireland, and how proud Irish people are of that heritage. And from that, I experienced all of their good food and their Irish dancing and the bagpipes and the parades and everything. It all just led one into the other. Now, the major difference, I would say, of course, for some of you, it might be like, well, they didn't do that in the Mass. Like that was always something that was done afterwards. And you're right about that. That you are right about. But at the same time, it made me realize that, well, I've always experienced this cultural clash between Catholicism and somebody's country, and it was always been very beautiful. But a lot of folks think that that's sacrilegious, that it's irreverent, especially if you bring it to the Mass. And I gotta say, man, after experiencing the things that I have, I don't think that's true. I really don't. It's changed my perspective. And it's because of how reverent I see the people who are there celebrating this through their culture, how proud they are. Let's take Our Lady of Guadalupe, for instance. So when she appeared to Juan Diego, within a few years, she was able to convert over 9 million people. The Spaniards tried to do it themselves by force and failed every single time. They were about to leave Mexico and leave these, native people alone because they could not convert them. They couldn't conquer them. And it wasn't until the Blessed Mother appeared to these people that they in droves became Catholics. That is the importance of Our Lady of Guadalupe and how significant she is and that apparition is to the conversion of hearts for hundreds of years at this point, right? Because that happened several years ago, hundreds of years ago, right? And the Mexican people are so proud of that. And they are just a very cultural people that I see what they're doing and why they're celebrating the Mass in that way. Now, should every Mass be a mariachi Mass with Aztec dancers? Absolutely not. No, I think that's what becomes a little bit of an issue. But to experience that one day during the entire liturgical calendar and year, where if it was not for the culture of that people, we would not have that kind of holiday. We wouldn't have the holiday that we do. We don't celebrate Our Lady of Lourdes, do we? No, we don't. We don't celebrate Our Lady of Akita. We don't celebrate these other apparitions in the way that we do a feast day for Our Lady of Guadalupe because of the Mexican people. Why would you not want to experience that culture? I think it's so wonderful. Same thing with the Sambang Gabi. Like I've never even heard of it, but to see how proud these Filipino people were in this Mass, seeing their culture and also seeing how much they love the Lord and they're trying to celebrate him in a way that they know. I thought that was just so beautiful to experience that. I've never experienced it before. Well, from that culture. Remember, I've done it through the Irish and the Italians. It's a little different, It's like, forget about it, So, and it's from Brooklyn there. Don't y'all forget I'm from New York City, okay? All right. Now, what's interesting is that Cardinal Sarah from, he's a Guinean cardinal, big name in the church, very conservative, and I completely adore him. I really do have a high reverence and respect for him. I wish that he had the opportunity to become our next pope. I mean, man, folks would just lose their minds. Okay, not Catholics. I'm just saying other folks just lose their minds. Like, they got a black pope? We need a black pope. Okay, like put him up there. Shoot. Anyway, get back to some traditionalism. Okay, because he's going to turn this whole thing upside down. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Okay, we're not having that today. But he came out recently and was talking about the problem of cultural masses within the continent of Africa and what's going on there, where the masses are more African than they are Catholic. And I can kind of see his point in that. But, I had to humble my heart a lot in the way that I address and think of the liturgy, right? because for me, that would probably not really work well for me because I do like a more Latinized version of our mass that's very traditional, very reverent, very quiet. Like I love that. That is just distinctively Catholic and I love it. But I grew up with that too. So it's something that I think maybe I have a connection to it because there's sort of even a nostalgia about it because it's how I was raised and what I feel speaks to me, right? But there are some people who maybe that doesn't speak to. There are some people who really love charismatic, progressive type of masses with the band and the guitars and the things that you know that I'm never going to be around. Okay. Cause I'm sitting, you pull out a guitar, I'm just gonna be looking like, are you serious? Are y'all serious? We not about to do that. I would humble myself because I'm in the presence of the Lord and I would celebrate the mass anyway, but I would be none the happier. Okay. I'll be like, okay, wow. However, there are people who are there that are just on fire for Christ, and that's what does it for them. Who am I to say that that's wrong? There's a parish out here, St. Monica's in Santa Monica. I finally said that right because I always say, I don't know what I say Santa Monica. I always got, but it would be Santa Monica, but it's St. Monica's in Santa Monica, which is St. Monica. Anyway, they are one of the oldest churches here in Los Angeles, very famous church. Tom Brady and Giselle Bündchen, they got married in that church. It's beautiful. It's one of the few churches that has a high altar here that's not called St. Vitus. Okay, St. Vitus is the Mecca of traditional Catholicism in Southern California. Okay, they are just, that is a traditional, they are FSSP. Okay, so they got their high altar. And the other church is called St. Victor's, which is where St. Vitus used to be, but they got too big, so they moved. Only 3 churches I know in Los Angeles with a high altar like that. Okay, and it's a beautiful church, St. Monica's, but I can't go there. Their music is progressive. It's just really like, holding hands in the Our Father. And I just listen. It's breaking out in like, I don't know, conversation and this, that, and the sign of the peace. I'm like, look, this is too much. Me sitting there with my little veil, like looking like a sore thumb. Not for me, not for Roxy, but I'm in that church and I just see the fruits of the community because folks are showing up. Folks are they're there every week. They are still, and it's packed wall to wall. Who am I to say that they shouldn't be celebrating like that if that's what speaks to them? Now, I do think there should be levels to this. I think that every Catholic church should have a traditional Latin mass. Every church have a traditional Latin mass. Every church should have their Novus Ordo, okay? Every church should have, if they have a congregation that is of a specific culture, a lot of the people speak a native language, have a mass in that language. We have that here in LA. We have Spanish because we have a large Latino community. We have Spanish masses. We have Filipino masses. We have Korean. That lots of Koreans here, Korean masses that are said in Korean. Nothing wrong with having these languages so that way people who are not native tongue to English, that they can have a deeper connection with the Lord. Nothing wrong with that. Why not have that in every parish? They have a huge Ukrainian parish out here and the masses are said in their language, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that having more cultural aspects as part of the mass or even more progressive type of masses, do you think that that's a problem? Why don't you go ahead and post your comments below? Because I like to hear your thoughts. I'm a changed woman. Okay, listen, I done heard the rants online by content creators who absolutely hate the Aztec dancers. I didn't even know what they were talking about. And I was like, I don't like the Aztec dancers. Yeah, what is that? What? Aztec dancers? What? And then I experienced it and I was like, wait a minute, this is not that bad. I see what they're doing here. I see what's going on. Maybe it's because our pastor went through and discussed the whole entire history of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the importance of the cultural, aspects, why she appeared as a mestiza. She was half white, Spaniard, and half native. And that was a huge thing because it was like she joined the two cultures and people into one and caused 9 million conversions at that time. I understand why they were dancing around with the Aztec dancers because that's what they got rid of that paganism and put it to the Lord. They turned it over to God. And that's what we're called to do. Turn that stuff over to our Lord. flip it around and give it to him. But what are your thoughts? Go ahead and post that down below.